Hi, everyone. I'm back. I hope everybody's doing great and you had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Today, we are talking about main idea and key details. The most important thing that you are going to need to do with a nonfiction text is understand its main idea and key details. Because when we read nonfiction, we're reading to learn. And so, you know, understanding what you're reading when you're reading to learn is super important. And you're going to need to understand how nonfiction texts work. And so this should be review. We should already know that nonfiction texts are real, they're about true things, and that they give lots of facts. And you should already know that when you retell a nonfiction text, main idea and key details. But just in case you are behind the eight ball, we are going to review just a little bit. So when you're wondering what's the main idea, or when you're asked what's the main idea, you should be thinking, what is the text all about? Main ideas are the big ideas that the author wants you to know, and you need to think, what's the topic of my book, and then what is the author teaching me about that topic in the book? What's in one sentence? Yeah, main ideas. You can sum up the whole book in one sentence. It's the topic and what you're learning about the topic. So, tricks to do this: use the title, use the introduction, and if there are subheadings, use them. Also, notice what's repeating. Those are 4 strategies that I know we learned in my class, and I'm pretty sure you probably learned them in your classes this year too. So today, we're going to take a look at this book, Notable Notebooks. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out the main idea. Usually you can do this without even reading the book or the text. I know, how crazy is that? Usually you know by the title, the introduction, subheadings, sometimes pictures or anything that's repeating, you know what the main idea is already. So we're going to look at this book and we are going to figure out the main idea without really reading the whole thing. So I've got my Notable Notebooks, Scientists and Their Writings by Jessica Fries Gaither. And I'll turn this just a little bit. Here we go. We're going to check it out. We already know our topic. Our topic is notebooks, right? Scientists and their writing. And when we open the book, we've got some writing there and some writing there. And then all of a sudden, the pictures look different. And this guy is obviously from a different time. And then we turn it and there's like a different guy from a different time. And it looks like every time we turn the page, we're seeing somebody different. My guess is, because this is about scientists and their writings, I'm guessing that each of those is probably a different scientist. So that makes me believe that this stuff that we're reading right here in the beginning, that's the introduction. So we know that our topic is notebooks. Let's read the introduction and see if that helps us figure this out. Of all a scientist's tools, objects rare and common, the lowly science notebook is most easily forgotten. Scientists write in notebooks about every plant and crater. Notebooks help them understand what they observe in nature. What makes a notebook special? It's a place to think and dream, to write down thoughts and questions about all that you have seen. If you find a science notebook, open it and have a look. You will surely be amazed by what's inside this book. Reading such a notebook is a great way to explore. We can learn so many things from those who came before. Don't believe me? Then let's go. Let's travel through time and see. One notebook just might be. Exactly how important one notebook just might be. So that's definitely an introduction. And if we think about what that introduction was telling us, it told us that the notebook is a scientist's tool right there in the very first sentence. Of all the scientists' tools, the lowly science notebook is most easily forgotten. And then it tells us that scientists write in their notebooks about everything that they see. It tells us that they're special. And it tells us that they are important. So if we had to determine the main idea of this book, we don't even have to read the whole thing. That's what I love about when people ask what's the main idea. You can kind of cheat because you don't have to read the whole thing to know what the main idea is. Use the title, use the introduction. We saw different scientists, right? So we already know the main idea of this book without even reading the whole thing. I love it when we can sort of like skip corners like that. All right. So if we had to put this into a sentence, we need to tell what we're learning about this topic. So we're learning about science notebooks. It said that they're special tools that are important. So we would just say in one sentence, the main idea of notable notebooks, scientists and their writing, is that notebooks are special tools that are important to what scientists do. Boom! Yeah! Don't you love it? We didn't have to do a ton of work to figure out the main idea. Love main idea. Okay, now, main idea is the gist. It's the big idea of a text. So that's all well and good that we figure that out quickly, but oftentimes we do have to get into those key details. So look at our burger here. Main idea always starts the text, and then we have detail, 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 and then we have main idea ending the text. In an expository nonfiction text, this is always the formula. So we can figure out the main idea usually right there in the introduction. And then at the end of the book, the author will talk about that main idea again. Whether it's a full book like this, or if it's just a couple of paragraphs, the first paragraph will usually be an introduction, the last will be a closing, and you can use those to help you figure out the main idea. But when we retell a nonfiction book, we can't just tell the main idea, we have to tell key details. Now notice in our burger, it says detail, detail, detail. That's important because not all of the details that the author gives you in a text are important. So we have to figure out the key details, because key details means the important details. And the important details are going to relate back to this main idea. So our main idea today is that science notebooks are special tools that are important when scientists do their work. So we need to find some key details now so that we can retell what this book is all about a little bit more. So key details will summarize each section of the text. That means you're going to tell the big idea of each section in the text in about 1, sometimes 2 sentences. It's the most important information that you're learning in each section that goes back to your main idea. See how important it is to figure out that main idea right when you begin reading? So the main idea is that scientists' notebooks are special tools that are important. So let's read our first section and let's see if we can figure out what a key detail for this section would be. I'm going to stand up again so you can see the pictures better. Let's visit Galileo. Back in 1641, he drew inside his notebooks planets orbiting the sun. In his notebook was a model of thinking that was new. His ideas, though quite correct, were not a welcome view. Galileo filled up notebooks, viewing the night sky, observing moons and stars and comets as they were passing by. Galileo's evidence helped imaginations roam. Other famous scientists looked at things closer to home. So, what we just heard there was that Galileo was a scientist a long time ago, right? Yeah, he's an old dude. Long dead. Okay. So we're learning about a particular scientist here, Galileo. So this section was about Galileo, but remember that main idea for the whole text is that the notebooks are special and important tools. So it tells us that he filled up tons of notebooks viewing the night sky and observing everything that was happening. And other scientists weren't really observing this, or other people weren't really observing this yet. And so I'm guessing that because we still know who Galileo is, he's pretty important. And he used notebooks to track what was going on in the sky. So one key detail is Galileo used notebooks to keep track of what was going on in the sky. Absolutely. All right, it's as easy as that. We'll read the next page. Isaac Newton was a genius. He truly did it all. Complex calculations in his notebook he did scrawl. Legend says he thought, aha, under a shady apple tree. Whatever's true, he did define the theory of gravity. Whoa! Did you guys know that? Sir Isaac Newton is the one who named and discovered gravity. We all know what that is. Measurements and data convey the greatest wonders, and Sir Isaac Newton's notebooks contained lots and lots of numbers. Math's a part of science, no matter what you do, but other things like drawing can help you learn it too. There's a close-up picture of stuff he actually drew and wrote down in his notebook. Do you see all that? They're all little numbers. Yeah, he figured out the mathematical formula to prove gravity in one of his notebooks. Wow, that's pretty cool. So in this section, we need to think, what's the most important information from this section, and put it together into one sentence. That will become our key detail. So let's see. Sir Isaac Newton was a mathematician and scientist who discovered gravity, who kept track of all of his mathematical formulas in a notebook. There we go. We could use that for our second key detail. Now, if I look through this book, I see that there are more and more and more people. And second grade, you're only expected to give the main idea and 3 key details when you retell a story. So I might not even read this whole book to you today, but I'm going to read the next section, and let's see if you can come up with a sentence that sums up this section and gives us a key detail. Beatrix Potter was an author. She loved to write and draw, but she was also a scientist who recorded what she saw. Holy smokes, I just learned something new. Wow, I never knew Beatrix Potter wasn't just an author. She was also a scientist. This book is blowing my mind. Okay, here we go. Insects, rocks, and fungi all graced her notebook pages. The detail in her drawings is a treasure for the ages. Ms. Potter used her talents to answer her own query. Sketching helped her understand the fungi's life quite clearly. Notebooks can be valuable to organize and review. They also are essential when describing something new. There's an actual drawing that Beatrix Potter made in her sketchbook of, yeah, a mushroom or a toadstool. Doesn't really matter what you call it. So she was actually a scientist of plants. How cool, I never knew that. And she used a notebook too. Woo! I want to start a notebook. Maybe someday people talk about me, say I was a scientist. I could start a notebook about my observations about students and how they learn. Okay, so we need to get back to key details. I get off track, I know. We need to think about what is important to know in this section that relates back to the fact that scientists use these special tools called notebooks and that they're important. Beatrix Potter used notebooks and made drawings and observations in all of her notebooks, and they helped her to understand what she was studying. Yeah, probably. All right, so after we know main idea and key details, And I'm so excited. I think I want to read the rest of the book, but I won't do that because it would take too long in this video. When you're done reading the book, there's a lot of scientists in here. It looks like Maria Mitchell's in here, Charles Henry Turner, Dr. Lonnie Thompson. He was into glaciers and stuff. Jane Goodall, one of my favorite scientists. I was on a plane with her one time. Ellen Ochoa, an astronaut and engineer. The chemist Stephanie Kwolek, Charles Darwin, Marie Curie. These are all famous scientists you're going to learn about someday. It goes on and on and on about them. And then you get to the closing where it reminds you that, you know, notebooks are important tools that scientists use. And then there's a whole section on how you can start your own notebook. So we need to retell this nonfiction text using our main idea and our key details that we came up with. So when we go to say this, we would use that language that we have on our Accountable Talk rubrics. The main idea in Notable Notebooks, Scientists and Their Writings, is that science notebooks are special tools that are important to the work that scientists use. One key detail is that even all the way back when Galileo was around, he used these scientists' notebooks to keep track of all of his observations of what was going on in outer space. Another key detail is that Sir Isaac Newton, who discovered gravity, would write down all of these mathematical formulas and observations that he made in his notebooks too. Oh. A third key detail is that Beatrix Potter organized all of her observations in notebooks and included drawings with them to help her become a better botanist. And that's how you retell a nonfiction story using main idea and key details. Super important. You're going to hear that a lot in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, because once you get to 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, you're going to read a lot of nonfiction in order to learn in your classes. So it's really important that you learn to make meaning of them now. So remember, main idea, use the title, use the introduction, use subheadings if you can, and key details, just sum up in one sentence what each section is about, and then put it all together. And there you have main idea and key details. All right, boys and girls, you should have some assignments on Freckle. Go check it out. I'll see you later.